Hey guys, it's officially fall, so it's time to make my favorite fall accessory, a beret. This project is easy and beginner friendly, so stay tuned if you guys want to learn. For this project, you're going to need two types of fabric, one for the outside of the hat and another for the lining. You'll need a half yard of each fabric. For the outside, I'm using a medium weight cotton, and for the inside lining, I'm using a satin. The first step is to make our pattern. To make our pattern, you're going to need some kind of craft paper or poster board. I'm choosing poster board to do so. On the straight edge of the poster board, you want to make a mark somewhat in the middle, but it doesn't have to be perfect. This is to make sure our pattern stays nice and centered. Next, you're going to take your ruler and you're going to place it perpendicular to that mark we made. Now you're going to measure 6 inches above that mark and you're going to make another mark there. You want to pivot your ruler, but make sure your ruler corner is still aligned with that mark. Then you're going to mark at 6 inches again. You're going to continue pivoting and marking at 6 inches until you reach the complete semicircle. This portion is going to act as the top of your hat. So if you're making this hat for a kid, you might want to mark at maybe 5 or 4 inches so the top of the hat is a lot smaller. After you've made all your dots, you're going to take your marker and connect those dots together. Next, we need to find the measurement of that inner circle. So to do that, you need to measure the circumference of your head, and then we have to find the radius of that inner circle. So to do that, you use this radius formula here. If you don't feel like doing math, then the average radius for an adult head is 3.5 inches. Now from that first mark we made, you're going to take your ruler and you're going to mark at that head radius number. If you like for your hats to fit snug, you want to make sure you subtract a 1/4 seam allowance from that number. If you don't, then you can just leave it at that. And then once you're done drawing, you're going to take your scissors and cut everything out. Now you're going to cut your fabric in half so you have 2 equal pieces, and then we're going to fold it in half on the long side. Next, you're going to take your pattern and you're going to place it on the fold. I like to use pattern weights to hold the fabric down, but you can use pins or anything that's kind of heavy that'll hold it down. And then after that, you're going to cut out your pattern. I like to save as much fabric as possible, so I try to trim as close to the pattern as possible. When you're cutting the top of the hat, you want to make sure you only cut on the outer edge of that pattern. Since we cut our fabric on the fold, you can see that once you open it up, it's going to be a full circle. Now we're going to repeat this step with the other piece of fabric we cut out. You want to place your pattern on that fold again, and then you're going to cut around that outer circle. And now you're going to cut out that inner circle. In hindsight, I should have used my rotary cutter, but the scissors work just fine. And then as you can see here, once we open everything up, there's a hole right in the center of the fabric. This is where our head's going to fit through. Now that we're done with that, you're going to repeat the same steps with the lining of the hat. Now we're going to move on to constructing the hat. First, you want to lay down the top of the hat, and then you want to take your brim piece and place it right sides together over the top of that hat. Once it's centered, you're going to sew it together using a 1/4 seam allowance. Make sure you either clip or pin your fabric together to make sure it doesn't shift while you're sewing. Once you finish sewing this one, you want to repeat the same step with your lining. While sewing your lining, you want to make sure you leave at least an inch opening. That way we can turn the hat inside out once everything's sewn together. Now you want to take your scissors or some pinking shears and you're going to cut little triangles around the outside of the rim. This is going to prevent excess bulk in the hat whenever we flip it right side out. Now we're going to take our hat and we're going to flip it right side out. I like to take a blunt tool just to smooth everything out and to make sure it's not bulky. Then once the hat's completely right side out, I take it over to my iron and I iron it flat. I'm taking a scrap piece of fabric here. This one is 2 inches by 3 inches and I'm going to fold it in half and sew it. I'm going to leave a space in the center so I can turn it right side out once I'm done. This is going to act as a little topper that's on top of the beret. After sewing, you're going to take your scissors and trim that down, so trim it as close as possible. And then I'm going to take this tool that I have and I'm going to turn it right side out. Now that it's right side out, I'm going to take it over to my sewing machine and sew that opening closed. So now that we've sewn our topper, now we have to find the center of our hat. So to do that, you're going to fold your hat in half one way, and then you're going to flip it and fold it in half the other way. After you've done that, it should come to a point. So what I like to do is take a marker or a marking pen and mark right in that center. I flip it over and mark it in the center again just so I don't miss it, and then you're done. We're going to take that topper piece and we're going to fold it into a circle. Then we're going to take a needle and some thread. This is the same thread I used to sew it together. And we're going to hand sew that topper piece onto the hat. Grab your hat lining and you're going to lay it flat. Make sure the lining is wrong side out. Then you're going to take your hat right side out and stuff it into that lining. Once that's complete, you're going to pin it together and you're going to take it to your sewing machine and sew it together. You're going to use that 1/4 seam allowance. If you forgot to leave a hole in your lining previously, you can leave a hole here. I just prefer to have the hole in the lining so you don't see it on the hat. This is what your hat should look like once everything's sewn together. Grab your hat and find that opening that we left, and then you're going to slowly pull your hat right side out. Make sure you're taking your time on this step because you don't want to rip the hat. Now that the hat's right side out, we're going to take it over to our sewing machine and we're going to sew that opening closed. And then once you're done with that, this is what it should look like. This is why I like it to be on the inside of the hat. Now that we're done sewing, it's time to stuff your lining into your hat. I just slowly push it in there until everything's as even as possible. And then after I finish stuffing it, you want to take it over to your iron and you're going to iron it flat. Once you iron your hat flat, this is what it should look like. As you can see here, ironing that hat really helped to keep the edges crisp. I really like the way this hat turned out. It looks super cute on, and it's definitely the perfect fall accessory. Let me know in the comments what you guys want to see me make next. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Bye.